Hej, jag heter Maria Järpnäs. Jag ska få med på en jättespännande resa till Bourgogne idag, fast här i köket. Och det är Vinsider som kör en exklusiv vinprovning. Välkomna ni också. Hej! So hi and welcome to Stockholm, Sweden, Stefan Schaefer. Nice
it's
to
my
have
pleasure.
You. Yeah, thank you.
It's my pleasure to attend this event and to present you a lovely selection of Burgundy wines, and more precisely wines from the winery Francois Martenot.
Yes.
And maybe a few words where we are based, because when we speak of Burgundy, it's always important the location you are from. And our winery is based in the middle of Burgundy, in the middle of the Côte d'Or, and more precisely Côte de Beaune, in Meursault, which is south of the city of Beaune. And so our winery also has a very long tradition of winemaking, because the winery is dating back to the 19th century. And even the the Martenot family is dating back to the 16th century. So they are making wines for several centuries and a very long tradition of winemaking.
Is it still family owned, or has it passed on to other generations?
So the winery has been passed on different families, but nowadays we are still owned by a family, the Elfrich family, which is one of the most iconic family in France, because they own also a larger company called Les Grands Chais de France, based out of Alsace.
Okay. So this lineup, what could you tell?
So today we have, I think, a very interesting lineup of Burgundy wines, because you will have a sparkling wine, you will have 3 whites, because also Burgundy is very well known for its whites first, and then also a red. So definitively it will give you a good overview of what Burgundy makes. So let's go directly to each wine, and then we can comment the wine and give maybe also some more explanation about the wine itself, where it's coming from, its appellation, and so on.
Yeah, and perhaps some nice food pairing.
Definitively also, that's also very, very important to mention. So the very first one, as you also we see on your screen, is the Cremant de Bourgogne. So Cremant de Bourgogne is a sparkling wine made the same way you would make a champagne. That means it's a méthode traditionnelle. The second fermentation that gives the bubbles to the wine is made in the bottle directly. And the Cremant de Bourgogne is quite now, I would say, a well-established appellation, because we produce it since the 19th century. So already for a long time, and recently when I did the research, I've read that the Cremant de Bourgogne has already been exported in many countries in the past, and we found it on the front during the Civil War in the USA, or even in Russia on the Crimea war as well. So just to mention that wine has already been around the world in the past, and already tasted by many people.
As you told me, history and culture.
Exactly, because it's always linked together, and also the very long winemaking tradition of Burgundy. Coming to the Cremant de Bourgogne, so it's a wine that is made from one or different grapes that are allowed in Burgundy. Here, the wine is made of Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, Aligoté, and Gamay. So Chardonnay first, about 60%. Chardonnay usually will bring elegance and freshness to the wine. Pinot Noir, about 20%, it will bring power and body structure to the blend. The Aligoté, which is about 5%, will bring the acidity, the liveliness to the blend. And then finally, the Gamay will give some fruity notes and also some body to the wine. So all these wines blend together will give a uniqueness to your Cremant de Bourgogne. Each winery making its own recipe, and there is no really, I would say, one way to make a Cremant de Bourgogne. At Francois Martenot, that's the blend we try to reproduce every year. As you may notice on the bottle, it's also a vintaged wine. That means that the grapes are coming from the harvest 2018. Mm-hmm. It's not an obligation, but at Martenot, it's something we do now for years, and it's something more, I would say, for the quality of the wines. The sourcing of the grapes, so it comes from different places. In here, for our wine, it's come from a place called Haute-Côte de Beaune, so it's higher on a higher level in Burgundy. And then some of the grapes are also coming from the Côte Chardonnays. It depends, of course, of the years, because in Burgundy we face always some issues in terms of production. So some years we have more or less grapes available. So we cannot always say it's coming from the same place. What is most important to us is to have a high quality of grapes, of raw material to make the wines, and also to over-deliver to you guys that taste this wine, to have something with a great value, and I would even say the best value possible. Yeah. Speaking of the characteristic of the wine itself, so as you can see, you have very nice bubbles, very refined bubbles. That is the sign of a great wine, and also the sign that is wine aged for a long time of the lees. That means of the yeast, you know. Yes, and to get the appellation Cremant de Bourgogne, you need a minimum of 9 months. At Francois Martenot, we do at least 12 months. And because we don't disgorge everything, that means when you remove the yeast from the bottle at the same time, it's much more than 12 months. And I would say averagely, it's closer to 15 months than rather even 12.
Could it be even longer?
Yes, man. But then, of course, depends also on the sales. But I would say, so in general, you can speak between 12 to 15 months. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And the longer, the better, as you noticed, Mary.
Yeah.
On the nose, it's very elegant. White flowers notes, peach notes,
apple,
honey, spices. These notes that we just described, they're usually coming from the Pinot Noir grape. So I think it's a very elegant wine, very distinguished. On the palate, a great freshness, again with floral notes, delicate fine bubbles, and very long-lasting aromas.
Very fresh.
Definitively very fresh. I mean, it's for me really the adjective that would describe best this wine is really the elegance, due of course mostly to the Chardonnay, because you have 60% of Chardonnay. So really that gives the I would say the great description of the wine, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And ideal as an aperitif, but also I would say with fruit pies, sorbets.
So more like a dessert wine, or
A dessert wine, yeah, definitely. And
for
also
the summer,
because definitely a summer wine, and some really wine lovers would even have it for a whole meal, because that's also possible. Because also here, as you may notice, the dosage is very low. The dosage means the sugars that you add after the disgorgement to the wine here is about 8 grams. So which is very low, because it can go up to 12 grams for the appellation brut. You can see on the bottle it's written brut. But here it's rather on a lower level. So that means it's really, it's not heavy. It keeps that freshness, that balance, and it's definitively a beautiful, now for the next couple months, beautiful spring and summer wine.
Yeah, good. So
and
should
of
we
course,
move on?
Yes, and of course, just a last thing, to serve it rather chilled, between 6 to 8 degrees Celsius. Very important.
Yes. And you wanted to change the order of the lineup.
Yes, so I think that it's better that we taste next the Petit Chablis.
Yeah.
Because the Petit Chablis is unoaked, and the next one is oaked. So that's why it's always better to go from something unoaked to something more oaked or richer. Petit Chablis,
so you can
les
tell
Ammonites.
The difference. Yeah.
I will, yeah, definitely, because it has not the same profile. The oak changing, of course, the characteristics of the wines, and also a Petit Chablis is more lively, has more acidity, so it's best to taste it first. Les Ammonites is the little nickname that we gave to that wine. Les Ammonites means that's a shellfish, a big shellfish that you can still find in the soil of Chablis, and that are fossilized for sure. Because in 150 million years ago in Burgundy there was a sea, and the sediments brought all these different characteristics. Petit Chablis wine is coming from a region called Chablis. Chablis is the north part of the appellation in Burgundy, and it's really dedicated to the king grape Chardonnay. You make only wines from Chardonnay, from a white grape, in that part of our lovely region. What makes also Chablis, and here speaking of the Petit Chablis, so unique, is the characteristics of the soil, and especially the component of the soil, because you have a mix of marl, of limestone, of different arts, and also you can find this typical, as I mentioned, shellfish, fossilized shellfish that you have in the soil, that give really that crispiness and also that unique note that you have in the wine. And the typical limestone that we have in Chablis is called Chimigeron. The Chimigeron limestone is really what defines the best here what you have in your glass.
And you told me that the northern countries like Sweden, Norway, we like this Chablis very much. Is it true?
Definitively, it's true. It's one of the most well-known white Burgundy in Sweden, and one of the most loved one and one of the most purchased one for years. Because also, I think it goes really good. It pairs well with the kind of food, the fish that you guys cook in Sweden. So it's definitively the best pairing you can think of with Petit Chablis. So you see the color, it's a very nice color, green pale color.
Yeah.
The nose is, it has a very nice open nose with white fruits. You can get also a lot of minerality on this 2020 vintage, offering also a nice complexity on the nose. And what characterizes also what I mentioned previously is really the liveliness and the pure fruit of the Chardonnay you get here. It's you have a lot of, I like to say that, purity of fruit on the nose.
Yeah.
And here nothing is will hide the profile of that wine. Very elegant.
Very elegant.
The palate is very well balanced. It's clean, crisp, a nice lemon finish. So you can already imagine all kind of food you can have with this wine. Shellfish, or like oysters, you know, sushi, definitively. Yeah. Fish in white sauce, poultry also in a white wine sauce. Veal, why not? I mean, I see a lot of here, really definitively a lot of food with that wine.
Okay. Yeah. I guess I can see why the Swedes like this one. It's like typical Swedish in a way.
So like the Cremant, so this wine you will find it at Systembolaget, at 129 Swedish kroner, and it's I would say
that's a very good
one of
price.
The best value, very good price, and one of the best value in that category at your stores.
And you can actually buy all of these at Systembolaget, right?
You can buy all of these, exactly.
So the third one, the Chardonnay?
So the third one is Bourgogne Chardonnay.
Yeah.
Vintage 2019. Bourgogne Chardonnay is a very interesting wine because I would say is a good introduction to the white Burgundies. Bourgogne Chardonnay is a regional appellation, so you don't know necessarily where it's coming from, the vineyard it's coming from, or the village, because usually it can come from different places. And that's why also it's a good way to discover Burgundy, but also to discover the wine from one specific winery like Francois Martenot. It's something, it gives you a first overview of the wines of that winery. As you can see, and it's written on the label, on the front label, it's made from the Chardonnay grape, 100% Chardonnay. No other grape is blended into that wine. And Chardonnay,
that's the grape that you are famous for, isn't it, Chardonnay?
Definitively, Chardonnay and Pinot Noir are the two king grapes from Burgundy. Mm-hmm. And it made Burgundy very famous for that, but also because we grow these grapes for centuries, for a long, long time. And thanks also to the monks that already cultivated, produced wine from this grape since the 10th century. So you see that there is a very long tradition of winemaking in our region. We found also some documentation that we've grown Pinot Noir since the Roman time. So you see there is a very long, really tradition on winemaking in the area of Burgundy. Mm-hmm. As you said, so we find also this wine at System Bolaget, and it's 119 Danish Swedish kroner.
Yeah. What would you say is the biggest difference if you compare these two?
So the difference, you can definitely feel it when you taste it, is that the Bourgogne Chardonnay is much richer. Also have some nice oaky notes. It makes it much more bolder, richer, more complex. It's also due to the fact that this wine spent about 10 months in oak. After the winemaking, which lasts usually about 1 month, when the grapes come in, we press the juice. We do a kind of cold pre-fermentation for 3-4 days, and then starts for about almost 3 weeks sometimes the winemaking, the alcoholic fermentation. And after that process, we will move it to a oak barrel, and then we usually age it for about 8 to 10 months, depending on the vintage. Once again, it's not really a strict recipe because the winemaker needs to adapt the winemaking to each vintage. 2019 was a great year, but was also quite a warm year with very ripe fruit, a lot of rich fruit. You know, that's why you can find that richness here in the wine. On the nose, here you get a lot of also some white flowers, even some rose petals.
Yeah, it's a lot of flower in it.
Yeah, a lot of flower. Also some dried fruit, some hazelnuts notes. And of course, you can really see the complexity of that wine.
Would it be wrong to pair this with meat, or is it just fish or lighter food?
No, you're right. Here, of course, you can have it for itself, definitively with fish, but also with, I would say, white meat, poultry, veal, things like that.
Chicken?
It goes, to poultry, chicken, things like that, with no problem, because you get that nice richness here on that wine, and good acidity, and definitively, usually we in Burgundy, we say that there is no better wine to pair with food than Chardonnay. It's easy pairing because it's a very versatile wine, and it will enhance really the flavors of your food. But then, of course, in general, try to avoid two flavored meal that would cover, I would say, the nice notes that you get here, the nice profile of that wine. Not two flavors.
Do you want to have it very chilled or room temperature or?
We in Burgundy, or in the old days, we said room chilled, that would say about 18 degrees. But usually I would suggest to have it around 12, 13 degrees. The best thing to do, you put it in your fridge a couple hours, and then you take it out, and then you put it on your table, and then you let it breathe and warm up a little bit. And that's the best thing to do, because of course not too chilled, because it would cover the nice flavors you get here. And again, it's really a beautiful wine. It's a real pleasure, and it's really, it gives you a first impression of Burgundy. It's a good and especially for that value, because also, as you know, in Burgundy we have great whites, but some of them can be also quite expensive. But here for 119 kroner,
it's a good introduction.
Exactly, you can really have something great, a little Burgundy in your glass for not so much money. So great value for that price.
That's good. So number 4.
And usually I would say, drink it within 2 years. You can keep it couple years. You can keep it, and also a good thing. Also, you have a screw cap that will also keep that freshness, because the screw cap avoid any, I would say, evolution, natural evolution of a wine. Here would definitely keep completely the fruit and the freshness of the wine. And that's
so
that's
how long can you keep it in the fridge?
In your fridge, I would say, put it in your fridge the day before you want to drink it, or a couple hours. But don't.
No, I mean when it's opened. When you have opened it?
Once it's open. Once it's opened, 1-2 days. Yes, no problem.
Okay.
That's no problem. 1-2 days. Yeah.
This heavy bottle.
Now we go to an iconic wine, a magical name when you mention Meursault. Meursault is like some other names, magical names in Burgundy. It's really the name of Burgundy, of the great whites. And that's where we are based. In front of me, I don't know if you can see, sorry. In front of me,
beware of the wine.
The vineyards of Meursault.
Oh, okay, and, so you're so close to it.
Yeah, and Meursault is the area of the whites, of the great, what we call the great whites. Sorry, I was I wanted just to show you the vineyards just behind me.
Yeah.
And
back to you.
With Chassagne, Montrachet, Puligny-Montrachet, and Meursault, that's really those 3 villages where you produce these very high-end whites. So it's one expression of Burgundy. And here, what is the most important, of course, it's the place it's coming from. When I was mentioning to you this morning when we were talking about the climat de Bourgogne, and we have about 1,364 different climats, different vineyards, appellations here. So that's now one expression of one of these specific vineyards from that village called Meursault. Beautiful place to visit also if you come to Burgundy.
I will, for sure. Just a detail
And
before
so,
we're smelling and tasting. The hole in the bottom, it differs a lot, the look of the bottle, if you compare to the others. Is it a reason for that, or it's heavier?
yeah, so that's just a very basic technical thing, because one bottle is always 75 centiliter.
Mm-hmm.
If you wanted to have it a bigger bottle, a larger bottle, you need to spare some space, and then that's why you have a bigger hole than in another bottle. That's
Okay.
just a technical reason, huh?
Yeah.
Because of the shape of the bottle, and it's a heavy bottle.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's nothing. Nothing. I would say special about it. Here we have a 2018 vintage, which was also a great year, with a good production in terms of also of yield. And like this last couple years, it was a warm year. That means the growing season was quite hot, warm. And we in Burgundy were not used to have this kind of heat, because what defines also our wines, that's because they are coming from cool climates. Burgundy is traditionally a cool climate area. Summer can be hot, but the nights are quite fresh. And that's why also we get that nice acidity in our wines. Because it's all about the balance of the wine, richness, but also with acidity, acidity being the backbone of the wine. A wine with not acidity is flat, is flabby.
It's
It
boring.
wouldn't be
Yeah.
exactly. So that's very important to give that a liveliness. And here, it's a wine, when you put the nose in this wine, you get immediately that richness, and also that uniqueness. Immediately you think of Burgundy, and most probably you think also of that part, the La Côte des Blancs, where you have these great whites.
You want to travel when you smell it.
Yeah, I mean it's.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always difficult when it's on a screen, and the people would not have the wine immediately in front of them. But even if you have not a big knowledge about wine, but when you put the nose in this wine, you almost can't get wrong. You will be in Burgundy. And usually you will be in Meursault, because it has such a unique nose that immediately it reminds you to that.
Mm-hmm.
So really, you can have really a lot of ripe fruit here, fennel, honeysuckle, some
What about
toasted
the
notes.
sugar? Does it differ a lot between the different kinds here? The amount of sugar?
So you mean the residual sugar in the bottle?
Yeah.
So here, like all the wines we produce, we vinify, will have less than 1 gram of sugar.
Okay.
Because our aim also is that all the sugar, through the action of the yeast, will be transformed into alcohol. Mm-hmm. That's why here also it's quite high in alcohol. It's 13 degrees. Yeah. Depends on the year, because also, as I explained, 18 was a warm year. So you have 18 degrees of alcohol, but here the residual sugar would be around 1 gram. But not more than that. Yeah. And of course, needless to say that we don't add any sugar after the fermentation. First of all, because it's forbidden, and it's not the tradition of Burgundy. So we don't put any artificial sugar after the winemaking process.
That's good. I think the Swedish people want to know that.
What a richness. Mm-hmm. What an explosion of aromas in your mouth. And it's so long lasting. It's on and on and on. You know, it's very long.
It differs a lot if you compare to the others. Yeah.
And you get all that complexity. You get these also these oaky notes. Mm-hmm. You get that honey notes.
And if you want to have something to eat with this one, what would you choose?
Here, I mean, you can have really a large, I would say, palette of food you can have with this wine. Of course, going from aged cheese, for example, to grilled trout with almond, mm-hmm. Grilled or fried chicken, even grilled veal, anchovies.
Do you have a favorite of your own in this line? Could you tell?
Of the wines?
Yeah.
It's always a difficult question that people are asking me, and usually I say it's like if you ask which of your child you prefer, you know, it's always difficult because
okay,
each wine has.
You love them all.
I love them all because depends for what occasion, for what kind of food I would prefer this one or that one, you know. So depending on your mood, on different things with who you are, you know, if it's just for a glass for itself. If I have a glass on my own with friends, I would take the Petit Chablis, for example. Yeah. Of course, if I have a meal, I will take the Meursault. So if I have some rich food and flavored food, so you need already also something stronger. You need that. Just something we forgot to mention, the winemaking. So the wine here is entirely made in oak. That means
all of them.
The first step during the alcoholic fermentation is made in barrels with regular bâtonnage to remove, you know, the leaves to give some more complexity to the wine. And once the alcoholic fermentation is over and we remove the wine, we put it back into the barrel for a long period of aging. So here it goes usually over 12 months, from 12 to 15 months in oak, among them 25% of new oak. Our oak treatment is always very delicate because we want also to keep the real fruit, the balance of our wines. So we don't want our wines, reds or whites, to be over oaked. That's really our philosophy at Francois Martenot. So you can find the Meursault at System Bolaget on the ordering assortment. Mm-hmm. So you cannot find it everywhere, but in some stores or online, you can buy it online, and the price is 439 kroner.
Mm-hmm. Good, thank you. And the red. The Pinot
So
noir.
the last but not the least, so Bourgogne Pinot Noir. I like to say that it's really the brother of the Bourgogne Chardonnay, because it's really the couple. It's also a good introduction to the red Burgundies, to the Pinot Noir grown in Burgundy, and a good introduction, I would also say, to the reds from Francois Martenot, a producer from Burgundy. So again, also here, it's a single grape. So it's not a wine that is blend with different grapes.
It's 100% Pinot Noir.
100% Pinot Noir. And Pinot Noir, what is great with this grape, with this varietal, is that it expresses best the uniqueness, the typicity of each terroir, of each place. Especially when you go to the village level, to the Premier Cru level, or even if you go to the Grand Cru level. Here, it's a wine made from different vineyards, so it's not necessarily just from one plot, but it already gives you what it can be and what's the Pinot Noir from Burgundy. Because also to notice is that nowadays it's a grape that is grown a little bit everywhere, all over the world. But originally it has been grown in Burgundy for centuries, and it's one of the oldest grape grown by the humans, you know, by the men.
Yeah.
It's one of the oldest one. Here, it's just a real pleasure when you put your nose in this wine, because again, here also, I like to say that's Burgundy, you know. Mm-hmm. These very delicate, lovely notes, red fruit notes, you know, strawberry, raspberry, cherry notes, which is really typical of Burgundy. When it gets a little older, usually you can get some more black fruit notes. Depend also on the vintage, you can get some chocolate notes, black chocolate. And then not to forget the spiciness, because the spicy notes are really typical from the Pinot Noir grape. It's really easy to recognize, and it helps you to identify that varietal. The grapes are coming here also from, as I said, from different areas. So usually here we have the Côte Chalonnaise, or we can also have some declassified fruit from the Côte d'Or, or sometimes even from the Haute Côte de Nuit. So really it depends on the vintage and also on the availability of the grapes. So what we try again also here is to give, to have a standard of quality, and that our wines over-deliver for that price level. Here, so you will find it at Système Bolaget at 129.
Good.
So it's an 18 vintage. So here you can feel that richness. It's very long lasting.
Yeah.
It's very delicate. Always, also you have to consider the grape. It's a Pinot Noir. It's not a Cabernet Sauvignon, a Merlot, or other grapes. So it's something that have delicate fruit, nice complexity, and also look at the color. That's also a way to recognize the Pinot Noir. It's a garnet color. It's never extremely colored. It can be even lighter than that. That will depend also on the year, on the anthocyanins that you will have. And it's definitively, as we mentioned, for the whites, a great food wine. And here you have really the choice with a lot of food. You can have it with, of course, with meat, lamb, duck, beef, veal, braised or grilled. Rabbit, why not? Also, the wines we have here are great values and definitely represent well Burgundy from a house like Francois Martenot that does a great job and that has a lot of consistency from vintage to vintage. That's also very important. You can't get wrong on every vintage.
It's a great lesson of great wines from Bourgogne.
That's that was my pleasure. We described the wines, we gave some more information. It's not always easy to make it short because there would be so many things to say about Burgundy, because with such a tradition, a long tradition of winemaking, we can speak hours and hours, but I think it already gives you just some basic information, first information about the wine, about our region. But then, of course, you are more than welcome in our region to discover it by yourself and to come and meet us at the winery and to speak about our great wines.
Thank you very much. For sure, we'll be there. Thank you
so much.
From Sweden and Vinsider.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Cheers. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.